Hi, welcome back to Mike's Diabetes World. You know, I started a series, but I didn't label it as a series. That other parts of your diabetic plan. You started off with pharmacist. Now I want to take you back to one that has always been part, and that is a dietitian. And they have always played an integral part in your diabetes care. Now, while it's true, diet doesn't always have to be as constrained as it once did. Because I can remember you had to have all of your components to be a set plan. And if you didn't, you played with the dangers of going low. You had to have a protein, you had to have a starch, you had to have vegetable A, a vegetable B, an extra. And if you didn't fulfill that, you would go low, or that's what they told us. I don't think that's really true, but they would tend to kind of make that observation. Dietitians will teach you how to set up a balanced meal. In fact, here I have a dietitian. When I went to diabetic daycare, when I went and saw my diabetic nurse, there was always a dietitian sitting in. So the plans of eating right, what types of choices would go better. For example, bread, white bleached flour bread is not as good as whole oats. I didn't really know this till I started seeing a dietitian. And, you know, if I was living on my own, I would say, oh yeah, I know how to carb count. It's so easy, anyone can do it. But when it comes time and you have to explain to someone else how carb counting works, it doesn't always, you miss something. The dietitians are there to help you. Now, if you don't have a dietitian, like you don't have a diabetic center which has a dietitian with you, you can also, I know here in BC, we have something called Dial a Dietitian. And that's where they answer questions about how much of a certain food you can have, or if I wanted that piece of cake, how much of that cake could I have? You know, it's really kind of funny, but right now I'm not really eating. So here, because I think my ulcer is starting to backlog, so every time I eat, I revisit. If you watched our last check-in or one of the last check-ins, you'll see that. Pharmacist here has started a fluid diet, so I'm not. I have flat ginger ale, which doesn't bother me. I have popsicles. I have pudding that I eat slowly. But all this, dietitians can help you out and to make you get success with your blood sugars. My blood sugars, just 1 sec here, have never been well controlled. But it's amazing with liquid diet, I kind of just settle perfect. If I could always have liquid diet, but that's not reality. eventually I'm going to have to start eating. And who will be there the best but the dietitian? I really found that I'm enjoying their popsicles. They're generic. I think they're kind of common, I think they're called. Don't quote me on the name, but they're actually quite good. But again, you should have a liquid diet plan before you need it. And who is the best to do that? Let me think. A dietitian. So you need to get in and find a dietitian that's best for you. Now, just like any other medical professional, you have to fit with one that agrees with you. My endocrinologist, my diabetic nurse, the dietitian here, I can always voice my opinions to, and they are taken for what it's worth. My diabetic nurse called the dietitian here to make sure that the carbs that I was accounting for was correct. She came back and she grilled me, but she asked questions, and it came back that I was accounting for my carbs correctly. But they were worried that I could be going off script with counting carbs. I'm sure you saw the picture just at the end there. I was going to sneeze. So, dietitian, come up with an eating plan. How much you can have of certain foods. They are great in figuring out the carb count. Is if you make soup or have a home style recipe for soup, they're great to figure out how much carbs. I mean, it's easy. You put carrots in, how many carrots you put in, you count that. But sauces and all sorts of things, they're great. I enjoy talking to my dietitian here. I've had some dietitians that were not as progressive with diabetes as I am. That they were kind of brought up and taught that, nope, you have to have a centralized diet, and you can't waver from that diet no matter what. So, speak to your doctor and say, hey, I need diabetes education with a dietitian. I'd like to sit down, discuss things with a dietitian. He or she should know of some dietitians. They may decide, well, you know what? I think you'd benefit from some diabetes education. I can remember I was sent to a dietitian because I was a know-it-all kid, and they said, well, just go and see, if they're correct, and, kind of grade them. It wasn't that. It was I needed help, and I couldn't say, hey. Nowadays, if I have a question for the dietitian, I'll just ask. They're there to help you. They're not there to kind of like, ooh, secret, da-da-da-da. You know what he's doing, da-da-da. That's not their job. So, think about it. If you haven't had the assistance of a dietitian, ask your primary doctor, or if you're seeing a diabetic nurse, ask the diabetic nurse to see a doctor, or to see a dietitian, sorry, not a doctor. With that, I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk later. Bye now. My email address is Mike's Diabetes World at gmail.com. All one line. Drop me